This is breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.
Probably care less, and now look how nice I am. They're like, oh, let's make sure the audio check's working right now. All right, what do we got going on signing day, which is exciting day. But it's such a different new world. We have a lot of new faces that have been here for a couple weeks. We had new high school guys, new transfer guys. We had high school guys that came in January. We have a bunch more that'll be coming in the summer. So it's a lot of fun. It's pretty exciting. The exciting part is the new world and all of the new faces coming together and building the locker room and the team together that way. For guys that have been here in the past and guys that are newcomers, and kind of mixing all of them together and to come together as one football team to hopefully give us a team that can go compete for a championship this season.
Dan, obviously a lot of transfers coming in. Is that kind of just a sign of the times in terms of flipping over rosters and things like that?
Well, I think there's, we'll see. From one year to the next, I think that's part of the sign of the time. We had a lot come in this year. We had a lot leave, but that's with the coaching transition. There's a lot that goes on with that, and you have some guys that had played with the old head coach and played with him before. We have several guys that have played for me before that were really excited to come back and play here. So I think that relationship holds true for where you go, the relationships you've developed. Some of the signees that left from the early signing period, obviously one being the former head coach's son. So you kind of, some of that stuff makes sense. I think just in today's new world, it makes it a little bit, easier, maybe the transition easier of saying, hey, these guys they're looking for different opportunities to go either with the previous coaching staff or opportunities to go play one more year somewhere else or whatever the different opportunities are. But it opened up a lot of opportunities for guys to come here. So we'll see if that holds true with that big a number in years to come, where there's an opportunity. Maybe there was more stability as I'm here as the head coach for a long time, of guys coming, and the reason they're playing, the stability within that program, the consistency of it to stay longer in their careers.
And obviously a lot of attention to quarterbacks in general, but Calandria and Orji, what stood out to you about them and wanting to bring them aboard?
Both of my being out for the last couple of years, I got to actually call Calandria game, so I've got to see him live and in person. And gotten to watch him play a bunch, and his skill set, he's got an it factor, a swagger to him. He plays with a lot of confidence, and he can do the things both of them actually. You look for things. Do they have the things that are hard to coach? His ability to extend plays and make special things happen when something breaks down really excited me about him. With Alex, I've got to watch him a lot this season, spending every Saturday in a studio, sitting next to, Matt Berry, who would be neutral on that situation until the Sun Devils came on. But sitting next to a Joey Galloway, who was always very invested in what was going on from that school up north of his. We got to watch a lot of that. You'd pay attention to a lot of them. And for me, watching his skill set, he was a guy I was really excited about, of what he brings to the table. And, in how I've always been with quarterbacks is our job as coaches is you build our system's big enough. Our playbook's big enough that we only use a portion of it in every season. We want to fit it around the strengths of the players. And you look at his strong points, what he has is, his leadership, his mental toughness, his physicality, his ability to run the football, and his arm talent. All of those things are there. Are we coaching the things, the balance, the accuracy, some of those things that you can actually coach. I always take things at the quarterback position. You want them to have the things that are hard to coach and need to improve on the things that are easier to coach. And I love those type of guys, and both of them have that.
And obviously, I know it's February, 5th, but do you
2/5/25. I was writing that date down. Yeah. It's kind of a cool deal.
I know in the past, obviously with like Chris Leak and Tebow, you used two quarterbacks. these two guys may or may not fit that mold. Is that something you can envision for these two guys, or is it, hey, I want one guy?
I mean, we'll see. We haven't been on the field at all yet, so we'll see how it goes. I think everybody in the program, I talk to our guys, everybody's competing. I don't know that guys are competing for starting jobs. Guys are competing for playing time, right? You know, the most interesting stat in football that no one keeps is who finishes, right? There's a big football game coming up on Sunday. Everyone's going to get into who played the first play of the game. That's the starter. You know, 4th down and 5 from the, 4th and goal from the 5, down 6 with 10 seconds left in the game. That's probably the stat you want to keep because the 11 best guys on both teams will be on the field for that play. So, I always talk to our guys that way. We'll see at the quarterback position, but every position is people not just competing for starting jobs. That's the starters, the guy who plays the first play of the game. I'd always pay more attention to the finishing job, who plays the most important last play of the game. But most importantly is guys are playing for reps and playing time. That if we have depth, we'll play multiple guys at every position.
I talked to people at ESPN about that, the stat.
It's a pretty, I would talk about it all the time. I'm like, hey, don't you really want to see, like, honestly, because what happens if, you're right, we're fortunate enough in a game, we'll go defense first, we block a punt, and the ball goes down to the 1-yard line, we recover it, we run out goal line offense. Well, every receiver, not all of them lost their consecutive start streaks. This happened to me in a game of, we had receivers like, I'd started 26 consecutive games and I didn't get a start. Well, I'm like, yeah, you did. No, I didn't, because the first play we were in goal line personnel on 1st and goal from the 1, and so officially they didn't start. So he was on the field for the last play. Well, actually, I think we won big, so he wasn't on the field for the last play of the game either. But that's usually the more important one.
Coach, most of these players are here right now. Can you talk about what you've seen in your building the culture of your winter program?
Well, I think the great thing, there was a great culture here. You don't have a successful football team. You don't win 11 football games without having a great culture inside the building. So the guys that were already here, there was a great culture. And there was a hunger to win. And there's what I mean by that of not the hunger to win the one more game. The hunger to get that title. They felt to fall one game short, there is a desire to get right back out there on the field. And when you look at the culture, I would have said, I've been around teams, and it's hard in today's world. I think there were more coaches opted out of the bowl game than players opted out of the bowl game. So, I mean, what a great sign that is, right? I mean, that is of guys that love the program and want to be a part of it. Then you bring guys in, and a lot of the guys we talk to coming in, I mean, they're coming here to win. To be developed, to be coached, to get on the field and go compete and win for championships. So I think when you do that and they're walking into a situation we're not in a rebuilding situation here. We're in a take the next step situation here. And so I think that attitude with everybody on the team here is already showing. I think they're walking around and saying, hey, to be a great team, we have good culture. I think we've put together a really good coaching staff, not just on the field, administratively, in the weight room. Everybody, a really good football department. And I think those guys see that. They're really excited about it. And they're looking at each other saying, okay, hey, we got to build this culture. We got to build this family. We got to come together as a team if we want to accomplish all of these goals. Not just looking and saying, hey, you know what? We were a game away last year. Got a great feeling around the building. Obviously, there's things in place. Hey, we brought a lot of talent in. We got the talent to go do it. They know they have to come together as a team, and that's a great feeling that you see going on right now.
You go with the talent, obviously one of the most talented players. Was there a theme in your mind, whether it be athleticism, certain filling positions that kind of defined your class?
Well, I mean, we wanted to be fast, big, strong, and talented. I want us to not just walk off the bus and look good. I want us to walk on the field and look good. And I want to line up every snap and look good. And I want to, at the end of the snap, people say, wow, those guys are good. So, that was what we were building. I mean, we went out, honestly, and just said, hey, let's just go try to recruit the best team we possibly can. If we, and then we're going to evaluate those guys through recruiting. And then evaluate the guys that were already here. We had a lot of veteran players leave, whether they, decided to transfer to go somewhere else for a final year, or a lot of players finish their eligibility. So we have a lot of younger players without a ton of film. So we went out and said, hey, we're going to evaluate those guys, but let's try to create the best football team we can create at every position across the board through recruiting. And then we'll add them to the talent that's already here that we're excited about as we balance out all the numbers to try to create depth. I think, one of the things you see championship teams today, they have depth. A lot of the recipes that go into it, right? I mean, certainly, your schedule, how it plays out for you, all of those different things, but all, health, how you stay healthy as a team. But if you don't, the depth that you have to get through an entire long season to go compete. So hopefully we not just recruited maybe a great 30 or 22 to 30 guy, we created a great 60 some guys that you need to rotate and play a significant amount of plays during a season.
Dell Alexander was talking. He said that you were very involved in watching, film of every player that you were recruiting. Just what's your philosophy on how involved you want to be and how much you want to be in the trenches like that with every guy?
Well, always. I mean, I'm responsible for all of them, and it ultimately. The program is my responsibility, is on my shoulders. So I want to know who we're bringing in here, what their abilities are, what they can do. And, for me, that's evaluating, that's recruiting, that's visiting with and sitting down with every single person. And, in today's world, it is a little bit different. Like before, they used to come in and, like, the big meeting, culminates with, the head coach. A lot of times, Lee Davis, who's our chief of staff and GM, she has the culminating meeting with a lot of these guys, with, hey, here's how everything breaks down for you in coming here, how scholarships and all the other things and opportunities, different opportunities, how it would break down for you if you come join our program. So I think there's a lot more people maybe involved in it, but I'm certainly hands-on on who we're recruiting, how we're going to recruit them, how they're going to be developed in our program, and as I go meet with them and building that relationship, because the program ultimately falls on my shoulders.
Coach, what's your excitement like just to work with Coach Dennis and the experience he's bringing from Ohio State?
And so we're having a lot of fun. I think what's really interesting is I was in a staff meeting yesterday. We kind of did an agility walkthrough or agility competition with and I'm like, okay, how many guys have, been through this before, to know what's going on? And I'm talking the entire department in there, right? And our strength coach had been through it with me at Florida before. Our offensive line coach had been through it before. And 2 recruiting analysts had done the program as players playing for me before. I'm like, is that it? So everybody else is learning this new. But when you look, we went in offensively. We were meeting, now it's really kind of grinding towards football right now. We've been out on the road recruiting, doing a lot of that. It's really getting the time going in football. A lot of the guys come from a similar tree. But the specifics are, the outline of the different offenses that we've run. Now it's getting it and putting our package together specifically and kind of merging the different things that whether, Coach Dennis took with him from his time at Ohio State and Tulsa, Coach Alexander being here and his vast experience of all of the entire coaching staff, right, on the offensive side of the ball with my background, and, part of it's creating the language, right, because, I say hello, they say hola, and now, I know a little bit of Spanish. So I can generally tell you what that means. But in football terms, we know what it means, but we all got to say the same thing we all want to be right on the deal. Because, I have one guy over here, if everybody's speaking different languages, right, and the third guy over here is like, mahalo. We're in some trouble. All right? We all got to, I don't care. I'm a mahalo person. I love it. Mahalo, we'll go with that. That's our word. We're calling that formation this. We'll get rid of hello. But, it's getting us all on that page of making sure we're all together as we go present it to the players, so we're not speaking all different language. I got to find my translator though, because in the heat of the moment, sometimes I've done it a bunch before, and I'll be like, let's run this. And I've been on the headsets at different locations. Like, yeah, we don't call that anymore, coach. This is what it's called now. And I'm like, okay, well, call that then. That sounds good. It's pretty exciting, I think. I think the opportunities to be there, it plays out as a college football person. You see, okay, the first round, you see the benefit of playing home field advantage. And that's one of the things I want to make sure we have here at Allegiant Stadium and through UNLV fans everywhere and through the city of Las Vegas, that, nobody wants to have to walk into that stadium to play the Rebels. Like they don't want to do that. That's a major advantage because of not just the environment, not just the stadium, but our home crowd. And I think you saw that in the early rounds of the playoffs. Second round, really interesting. I think a lot of people are going to go back and study that. The coaches of, what was the advantage of 2 weeks off compared to 4 weeks off? Because all the 4-week teams lost. So I think there'll be a lot of discussion and coaching calls going back and forth. What happened in the 2 weeks compared to 4 weeks, but I think it is really exciting. I think it's exciting for a lot of teams. I think you look for the Mountain West Conference to have a team in the playoffs. I want to make sure. Hopefully, we're the team in the college football playoff representing the conference this time next year, and we find a way not just to go represent us, but find a way to go win some of those games and, and go have that opportunity to go play on the biggest stage in college football.
Tavian McNair is a pretty highly ranked high school player, and he became available late in the process. What was that recruitment like for you guys to bring him in?
Well, I think it was huge. Obviously, I think through the whole process, his relationship with Coach Alexander was huge. And I think he did a great job recruiting him and developing that relationship. So when the opportunity came for him to look for, what was going to fit for him, the opportunity to be here, to come home, to play here at UNLV was huge. And the comfort level with having a coach he was very comfortable with as a position coach and had that relationship with, as well as the opportunity to see, okay, hey, this is what the offense is going to look like in the future. And I'm a wide receiver, and I want to play in that type of offense. And I think that's that was, certainly didn't hurt that we brought in some great quarterbacks. It didn't hurt that they're looking at the style of offense we're going to run. And I think for him, looking at the relationship he had with the position coach was really important.
Jalen Glover's another guy that got a lot of attention. How does he fit into your offense?
Well, he's great. I recruited Jalen coming out of high school. When I was coaching at Florida, we offered him. We wanted him at Florida. And so it's someone I've known for a long time, and you look at his work ethic, his toughness, his physicality. I want backs that are physical backs. And so, he has that size and physicality to run between the tackles, also has the ability to make you miss, and when he does get into the open field. So I think those combinations of things, I want to see him. We're going to use the backs a lot in the passing game, where, and I've got to see him a little bit during the recruiting process a long time do it, not as much playing, more he's run the ball more than caught it, but also getting to watch our guys and using it, excited about Jed and his ability to catch the ball coming out of the backfield. The matchups you can create that way, I think, are huge. So we ask our running backs to do a lot of things. And, I always tell our guys, the more things you do, the more dangerous a weapon you are. And within the offense, and the greater mismatches we can create. If I can find ways to create mismatches on the field because you have a bigger skill set, the more we're going to use that.
Speaking of Jet Thomas, just special teams, his ability in the return game, what are you excited about with him?
A lot, Now, we've brought some other guys in. JoJo Earl's a guy was a dynamic returner in the SEC. So we have some guys that in the return game and special teams that'll be great. A lot of our guys. And the greatest thing about special teams, are the only plays in football that average a 40-yard change of field possession on just about every special team play from where it is. So that puts guys the opportunities to be in the open field, and I think we've gone out and gotten some guys. We have some guys returning and obviously brought some guys in that are very dangerous open field players. And so, I'm excited special teams wise to get them in the open field and hopefully offensively get them in the open field as well.
With the portal and the different windows, it sort of seems like roster building sort of goes almost all year round now. I understand you haven't played spring ball yet. How close to a final roster do you think you have? How much more do you have to put together in the spring and summer now?
Well, hopefully we have a lot. Hopefully we're pretty much done. You'd love to see, one thing on the outside, and even as a coach, in understanding today's world, you got into this, and one of the great rewards of coaching was seeing a young kid in high school and then seeing him 5 years later. You see him walk in the door, and you see, as a young high school kid, and you see him walk out the door as a man. And a lot of those guys with master's degrees, that very successful careers, that have built internships and have a foundation for success for the rest of their life to go on and move on, whether it's in football or business or wherever they're taking themselves, whatever field they're going into. I'm a big with my own kids. I'm big with anybody. You start something, you finish it. Well, if you look in today's world in college football, you'd love at least to get to 1 year. If you can eliminate maybe the second transfer portal window and you sit and say, okay, guys, hey, we're here. This is our team for the next year. Just 1 year commitment even. If you're involved in it, I think that's a good lesson for kids to teach people, if you're going to start it, finish it. And, so you'd love that to happen. I think that would certainly help with roster building, because then you're sitting here right now, we're saying, okay, we know what we have. It would certainly help even in recruiting. Today's National Signing Day, and a lot of people, they worry, how does transfer portal affect high school recruits? Well, it's pretty simple. Is first day classes, we know this is our roster for kind of next season. We have this many spots still available. Let's go sign this many high school players. Gives more opportunities for high school players moving forward. I think if we could just get a little bit of some common sense in that, I think it would go a long way. And for helping, not just the roster building for me, helping the kids in the program, helping develop a team, helping develop all of that camaraderie within a 1 year team, and helping life lessons that football teaches some of the greatest life lessons. And, you want to make sure we're not losing those life lessons that are taught in football.
You talked about how it's signing day and recruiting has changed. You haven't been on it for a little while. Just how do you feel personally? Did you enjoy it? What is it like?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now there's multiple signing days, right? We only signed a couple guys today. I remember usually, I would have been coming into this meeting usually pretty grumpy because I hadn't slept in 3 days because I was on the phone at 4 a.m. last night, still talking to everybody, trying to get everything done. When there's the one signing day, most of our recruiting class is already on campus, and, they're getting pushed through workouts and going to class already. So I think through the years it's changed an awful lot. And so maybe that anxiety of that one specific day is very different with how you build the roster, where it used to all come down to this one day. And, I'd be coming in here with bags underneath my eyes, ready, just get me, how fast can I get out of here, to go catch my breath for 10 minutes. I'm kind of team workout this morning. We got to talk football for the first time in 3 years. I sat in a staff room talking football last night, with our guys. That was amazing to go do that, and that was a lot of fun. So, but the recruiting. Recruiting's going year round, so we're already on the phone with all 26s and 27s already today, getting ready for their big day. Whenever the NCAA decides to say it is next year.
Talked about just the amount of new guys. I'm curious if this is a pretty untapped market when it comes to just college football stars over the course of the decades. Is there any sort of plan or attack, or just selling these kids on just this city and how they'd be involved with it in this recruiting process?
Well, I think this. I think, I've always thought UNLV was a sleeping giant. I did that. I was in the Mount West Conference 20 years ago now at the University of Utah. And I looked at certain advantages that the city had. Now, if I went back then, this was not a heavily recruited area 20 years ago. You look at the city now and the growth of the city, and I'm not just talking about a specific high school, like, powerhouse high schools. The depth of football players in this city has really grown over the last 20 years. So there is a lot of local talent for us to recruit. I think you always start in your backyard. I think in the direction the program's headed, there's a lot more, young kids. I mean, if I went into you go into a house and say to meet with a quarterback, like, hey, I coach Tim Tebow. They're like, oh, who's that? Like the parents know maybe, but the kids like, oh, is he like on TV or something? Sometimes I've seen him like, I saw him at my church. Did he play football? But the younger kids in the city now, when you look at how the direction this program's been heading over the last couple of years, there's a reason to come play here. There is a reason to come. I mean, we have unbelievable facilities. We play in an unbelievable stadium. We have the opportunity to go compete for championships. I expect this to be one of the top programs, if not the top program on the western part of the United States. So for kids, they don't have to get on a plane and go leave here all the time to come achieve all their goals and accomplish all their goals. They can stay right here at home for us. But I think the advantages of this school, I mean, guys can – majority of the roster. I was at Mississippi State. We built a team that went to number 1 in the country and basically put a dot, drove a 5-hour driving radius around Starkville, Mississippi, and the majority of the team was from there. And if you do that, that includes Southern California, that includes Phoenix, the accessibility. And then you take this city and the accessibility to this city makes it a very desirable place for guys, not just all the local guys where we want to focus on and not just in the city, but in our 5-hour radius, but also the availability of this city to players from the state of Texas or the Midwest or even the East Coast. The Northwest, we're a very accessible place to get to, so it makes it a great place for them to come play.
Coach, it looks like there's a Manchester, New Hampshire to Vegas.
I heard that Chip was texting me the other day, like Mancha Vegas is coming out west, as we used to call Mancha Vegas, right? It's like the Vegas of New Hampshire up there. It's happening in Manchester, New Hampshire. It's wild. The city that never sleeps. Right? I mean, as long as you can get into the back room before 10 p.m. restaurant, you're good to go. But at 10, the doors are shut.
I'm not sure if you guys, how close you guys are with your coaching past, but what did you make of him following you to Vegas in a sense?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. You know what, our paths, to be honest with you, both being from the same hometown, that's how I got into coaching. I was a senior in college, wanted to get into coaching, and we were all kind of from Chip to me down to Ryan, all kind of enough apart. We never I think it's about 5 to 6 years between each of us. And then Chip and Ryan went to Central and I went to Trinity High School. And I was in the middle between the two. So it kind of like there was a spread that we never crossed over, never played with each other, never were at the same school. But I give Chip, you knew each other just in the town that we were from. There was, if you ever meet people from Manchester, New Hampshire, they have a lot of pride. I've lived in the South a long time, so my accent's kind of gone, right? I mean, I bet Chip's like wicked excited to get out here, and like they're going to play hard, the Raiders. He kept a little bit of Northeast edge to him. But people in the hometown, they're like, hey, you want to get into coaching, you got to call Chip. I played against him. He was the D coordinator at Johns Hopkins when I was at Ursinus my senior year. I think we got a win over him. And he had gone, and he's first person I called, and he helped me. He helped me get my first coaching job. And then so our paths constantly cross, possibly throughout the years of taking care of each other. I remember him calling me. I was at Florida. He's like, hey, I got this younger guy, Ryan Day, needs a GA. Like, he's done a boss. He's the big time. And I knew Ryan, obviously, from being from the same hometown, even though we didn't play against each other. And, we've always kind of tried to help and take care of each other that way. And so I think it's really cool to have him right down the street. I imagine we're going to be sharing some different ideas throughout the next year.
Anything else? Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank y'all.
You've been watching breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.